Hi everyone, Sandman here. I'm just making this extra video to let you guys know that I've ceased making meme videos, and the last one is going to be Memes of the Week 869. I'm stopped because of a new anti-hate speech law that came out in Canada less than a week ago, called Bill C9. For the most part, the lamestream media hasn't released much information about it, and it's mostly Catholic and evangelical groups releasing it because certain verses from the Bible will be criminalized in Canada as of July 18th. None of the major news organizations in Canada published that Bill C9 was also passed. It was mostly those religious publications. And why would the mainstream media report on it? They probably want Canadians blindsided as to the changes that come out next month, so they don't realize that they put out hate speech tweets or YouTube videos until the police are at their door to take them away to jail on criminal charges. And it's not just about religious speech, but it's anything that the government judges deem to be detestation or vilification of a group based on their immigration status, sex, gender, or race. All they have to say is that you intensely dislike Jeets, and you could go to prison for up to 10 years. Bill C9 is law as of June 18th and goes into effect 30 days later in July. It's also going to be illegal to criticize gays and Muslims. Of course, I'm sure that much of the language that's in the Quran will probably be exempt from this. The new law here in Canada is worse than the one in the UK, where tens of thousands of people have already been put in jail. It's more extreme than in Britain. Let that sink in. Well, there goes my freedom of speech. Now you're probably thinking, but Sandman, the government doesn't know who you are, and Next.com and YouTube won't share your identity with the government, so you're perfectly safe. Not so fast, because there's another bill called C-34, which is supposed to be about restricting social media use for those under the age of 16. But I'm sure the only way that's going to work is if you need to give digital ID to access things like X, Facebook, Instagram, and possibly even YouTube. So then those companies will have your ID, and there's a third bill called the Lawful Access Bill, which gives Canadian government authorities access to 1 year of your browsing and posting activity on Canada Online. Bills C-34 and C-22 have gone through their first of the 3 readings that they have to go through, and with the Liberal Party controlling both the House and the Senate, they'll get passed, and digital totalitarianism will be here in Canada. I could in theory fly under the radar until those other 2 bills come through, but my content and reposts are time-stamped, so the government can get me for anything after Bill C-9 goes into effect next month. Google and Next could tell the Canadian government to F off. The Canadian government is also going after VPNs, saying that they need to keep a record of everything. But VPN companies are saying they won't be able to operate in Canada if those changes go through and will have to ban Canadians from using them. Even the UK doesn't go as far as banning VPNs. This channel used to be my primary source of income before COVID. Today only 12 to 13% of my income comes from YouTube and donations. When COVID happened, the government and central banks tried to grate me through inflation. So what did I do? I figured out the game and won financially. Before that, Susan at YouTube demonetized me back in 2018, and I had to find other sources of revenue, and I did by promoting the Brave browser and getting paid in basic attention token. But then the inflation hit, and I turned those tokens into Bitcoin and outpaced inflation because BTC has been growing at 33% a year annualized when I bought it. The last 3 years I've been dealing with algorithmic suppression on YouTube, and my meme videos have basically kept up to some extent. So I always meet a challenge and I win. Now I have to face hate speech, surveillance, and ideological compliance in Canada. I'll comply so much that I'll actually cram the degeneracy of the woke tarts so far down their throats that they'll beg to return to traditionalism. But by then it's going to be too late. That's how you win against people like this. You give them exactly what they want until it hurts them. Women do what feels right and they don't think about the longer-term consequences of their feels. And the simps just go along with it. My goal back in 2013 and 14 was to make MGTOW mainstream. And it is now. A month from now, if I say we live in a gynocracy, that'll be hate speech. And hi-ho, it's off to prison I go. All Western countries, including Europe, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, are going in the same direction. Dare I say it's almost coordinated. Say it ain't so. I could spend 6 months a year in Serbia and another 6 months in the United States and leave Canada permanently. I'm still going to the States for 6 months again in the winter. I thought about Dubai, but it's not worth it. Even less freedom of speech. They have similar hate speech laws. You aren't allowed to criticize women or the gynocracy. You aren't allowed to watch porn too. Getting U.S. citizenship would also create a nightmare in the long run because at some point, I'll be above the inheritance tax threshold, and I won't have the tax-free savings account that I enjoy in Canada right now. I have Serbian citizenship, and that's still an option, but the political situation there is dicey. Not to mention that I don't feel very free there. People kept coming up to me while I was there, constantly asking me what I was doing with the camera. To me, the United States felt like the freest society. Remember, Government of Canada, now you won't know what people that oppose you are doing in private and in secret. The resistance goes underground. Sure, you can listen in on our conversations, which you do already, because you have sneaky backdoors into our phones. And you're keeping the use of advanced spyware a secret. You know what this means, though? I'm going to basically get a dumb phone and leave it at home and keep it in a Faraday bank. The only time I'll use my smartphone is when I travel to the United States or abroad, and I'll get a US phone so you can't spy on me anymore. I'd rather the NSA spy on me instead. Looks like that saying we used to escape the real world by going into the internet back in the 1990s, but now we go into the real world to escape the internet today is finally coming true. I'll start using mostly cash again and get insurance that doesn't keep track of my driving with the GPS. Doing all of those things will put me more on the government radar, and that'll just waste more money and resources keeping track of me in other ways. In the meantime, I'll have to keep my brain active. I have my Cool Buildings travel channel with 100 videos plus to release, so I'll start working on that tomorrow. Regular content will still be coming out for the next 20 or 30 days. Financially, I'll be okay because 90% of my income now comes from the markets. The reason all this legislation is passing is because the liberal government bought conservative politicians and got them to cross the floor. And now they have a majority and can vote any crazy line that they want and take away our liberties. Last night I had a dream of ending my YouTube career. I got up today and realized that it looks like it's time. I'll still post videos from time to time, but I have to self-censor an insane amount. What's also really sad is that I wanted to get to 1,000 meme videos before stopping. Too bad that's not going to happen. Also, with regards to living in Serbia for 6 months and 6 months in Florida, and keeping a car down there with a family friend, that was an idea. But I now have new health problems which are forcing me to stay closer to home. The government thinks it's going to win by silencing people. People will still think the same way, they just won't share it in public. And our society could become a powder keg if people don't have anywhere to let off steam. I also can't risk going to prison because I'll end up like Coach Red Pill. Because my health requires me to do 20 different things a day to keep myself from being in horrific pain on those criminal charges. The pain is so bad that the government will probably offer me MAID and then harvest my organs. More people going silent online should worry them. At least up until now, the governments have been able to hear everything I've been planning. Going underground allows me to put on a woke cloak in real life and promote things that benefit women and then women feel good about. But in reality, they hurt the agenda of the gynocracy. They'll cheer on their own destruction and lift me up as someone who's actually empowering them. That's the only way to make the changes I want to see. I have to work overtly to empower women in a way they feel good about while simultaneously covertly helping men. I see it as a challenge to work under a totalitarian regime to bring about the changes that I still want to see. Working within the insane laws to bring about a better world. My uncle in former Yugoslavia, there were articles written about him making more money than the highest paid party officials back in the 80s, fixing Yugos, because Yugos needed their timing belts replaced every 30 to 40,000 miles. And when they weren't, the pistons rammed into the valves, causing engine destruction. He made a fortune fixing those engines. The government made a horrible decision designing that car, and he ended up taking advantage of it. So there are ways to win in a corrupt system. I'm not playing stupid government games that I can't win, and the coming social media ban for those under 16 means everyone needs to verify their age and identity on the internet in Canada. But if I'm not using social media, then there's no reason to verify my age and give up my data. I'm also going to keep my old content up that I posted before the law takes effect. In the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, they can't really go after you for criminal charges retroactively. They only did this once for someone guilty of truly awful crimes. War crimes, to be precise. There was no other case. With that, I'll take my chances, though. It's time to escape the internet by going into the real world. Remember that when you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. That's where we are. But I've already said what I have to say, and people are still spreading it in America, which has the First Amendment protection for now. There are no protections like that here. I predicted many years ago that once women realized that they couldn't stop MGTOW philosophy, they would use the government apparatus to silence men. Well, here we are. Let's see if they can pull off the same thing in America without causing a civil war or something. As for myself, sometimes like that Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler says, you need to know when to hold them, and you need to know when to fold them. But here's an option. I'll fold my cards, leave the table, and then come back in disguise and knock off the casino that's been rigging the game the whole time. The song is about strategic decision making. The challenge is to create dissent masquerading as social justice. Governments better be careful. I won't really be talking to anyone about my plans anymore. They better be able to read my thoughts from now on. You can silence me legally, but you can't silence my spirit, nor my covert will to resist. I remember a story a while back about a guy running a Soviet shoe factory who was intentionally delaying shipments and production in secret because he was getting paid the same amount as money as the workers. I'm sure that many other guys running factories back then did the same thing until the state collapsed. Maybe a video or two a week talking about how we take back freedom financially is in the cards. I did make videos about artificial intelligence a while back, and no one really cared for those. One thing's for sure though, the Canadian prisons will be full of free thinkers. Canada's also going through the largest increase in correctional capacity since the 1930s. They better be careful, and they should learn about what happened with the Bastille in France. Anyways, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts about this. I scripted and recorded this just an hour or two after making my decision. I guess in this case, don't enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.